Hello everyone. We often think that wild bears invade human settlements because forests are shrinking, food sources are becoming scarce, and bear populations are rapidly increasing after protection measures. But another factor that is overlooked is that campers and hikers often leave leftover food in the forest. Over time, bears have learned to associate humans with food. Their visits to crop fields, honeybee farms, trash cans, and livestock attacks have become increasingly frequent. More daringly, they have broken into homes to look for food, affecting the agricultural economy and the safety of people. To address this situation, the US government has allowed hunters to conduct controlled hunts to minimize the damage caused by wild bears. To increase our chances of success, we prepared grain, honey, and salmon to lure the bear. The scent of fish, especially when warmed by the midday sun, drifted through the trees, forming an irresistible trail. I took my .30-06 rifle with me and scouted the woods. From a hidden observation point about 60 yards away, we set up camp behind a natural screen of fallen logs and brush, rifles firmly planted on a bipod, eyes scanning for every flicker of movement. Then, just as dusk began to draw shadows across the forest floor, a large bear emerged, wary, powerful, its nose twitching as it approached its prey. My finger hovered near the trigger as I studied my breathing, waiting for the moment it stepped out, unaware that it had entered the final chapter of the chase. Because bears are large and aggressive animals when they feel danger, hunters usually go in groups of 2 to 5 people. That we hiked for 3 hours on the forest edge, where patches of snow clung to rocks and the air smelled of sage and cold granite. Our guide, Craig, was the first to spot the grizzly, moving like a bronze shadow on a rocky slope, looking for prairie dogs. After 2 hours of hiding behind rocks, the wind cutting into our faces, the bear was 270 yards away. My shot rang out sharply in the thin air. The bear roared and reared. I fired a second shot, just behind the shoulder. It collapsed but writhed violently. Even dead, it looked majestic, its muscles knotted like rope, its claws like blades.
Take him out.
Yep.
Imagine why the bear rolled.
Then the eastern suburbs of Wyoming, I heard reports of a black bear raiding hay and feedlots. This is unusual territory for bears, but this one has adapted. Wild bears cost the U.S. agricultural industry $5 million a year, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. With an ATV and a drone to scout, I spent 2 days mapping its tracks. On Tuesday morning, I spotted it from a windbreak near an old fence, huge, sleek, and alone. I crouched low and used the sparse brush to navigate within 150 yards. The bear stopped, sniffed, then reared up. It spotted me. I pulled the trigger just as it started moving. The shot hit it in the lung. It sprinted, fast, incredibly fast. Dust flew. The animal fell, rolled, and lay still.
Thank you so much again.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Not every hunt ends in victory. Just before dusk, a large bear appeared below my perch, too close to safely shoot from above. I waited, silent. Then the wind shifted. It looked up. Our eyes met. I froze. The bear moved quickly, circling the tree, growling. I climbed down slowly, rifle ready, knowing full well that I had broken the cardinal rule, never let it get that close. A snapping branch startled it, and it ran. I had let it escape.
The bear whisperer, yeah.
There's no hunting quite like chasing grizzly bears along Alaska's salmon-filled rivers. I joined a licensed guide near the Kenai Peninsula. We set up camp near a bend in a river famous for its spawning runs. Hours passed. A fierce grizzly, its fur covered in fish scales, charged through the shallows. I waited, rifle steady on its bipod, until it dragged a salmon to shore. The shot was accurate, just behind the ear. It fell instantly. Do you think this method is effective in controlling America's invasive wild bears? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future content.
Monster patty. Thank you, sir.
Hunting in late fall presents brutal challenges. Snow thickens the landscape, muffles sound, and hides danger. We tracked a black bear to its den. The bear was not fully hibernating, still active, perhaps disturbed by nearby hikers. We watched the slope from above. When the bear emerged from its snow-covered den to investigate our scent, I had only seconds to act. I fired a shot, the sound echoing through the woods. The bear staggered. A second shot found its mark. It collapsed inside the den. It was a solemn moment. Hunting with a bow does not make as much noise as a rifle, and does not frighten prey or non-target animals. However, hunting with a bow and arrow requires the hunter to calculate precisely and carefully. A bow and arrow do not provide the power and continuous shots like a rifle, so the hunter needs to set up a stand in a tree and ambush to ensure safety. I spent 5 days tracking and learning its movements. On Friday morning, the mother and cub black bear continued to come to the bait box I had prepared. It seemed that they sensed something was wrong, so they ran away and then climbed up a tree. Without waiting any longer, I shot a precise shot into the bear's shoulder. The arrow hit the target, but it ran away. I followed its blood trail and finally found it lying under a sparse bush. In Montana, I was on a coordinated hunt with 5 other hunters. We took up positions around a ravine where a grizzly had been spotted several times. As our 2 scouts moved in to chase it away, I waited on the other side of the ridge. Minutes passed, and then a tree branch crashed. The bear quickly emerged from its hiding place and charged up the slope. I steadied myself. 1 shot. Then another. It collapsed a few feet from the top of the ridge.
Get him again.
Although bear hunting is licensed by the government, hunters are required to adhere to strict requirements. These include a detailed report of the hunt, and hunters are only allowed to take 5 to 10 bears per season. Failure to comply with these regulations can result in a fine of $10,000 to $15,000.
First day of hunting was uneventful.
Hunting wild bears in America is about more than trophies or thrills. It is a deep relationship with nature, one built on knowledge, danger, and reverence. The forest humbles you. The mountains challenge you. The plains reveal your skills.
It was kind of... Good job, Derek.
With each hunt, we learn more about the land, the animals, and ourselves. As long as bears roam the wild and hunters walk the quiet paths of respect and preparation, the legacy will live on. The wilderness is not conquered, it is earned, step by step, breath by breath, shot by shot.
Perfect shot right out of the tent. High five, bro.
We often think that wild bears invade human settlements because forests are shrinking, food sources are becoming scarce, and bear populations are rapidly increasing after protection measures. But another factor that is overlooked is that campers and hikers often leave leftover food in the forest. Over time, bears have learned to associate humans with food. Their visits to crop fields, honeybee farms, trash cans, and livestock attacks have become increasingly frequent. More daringly, they have broken into homes to look for food, affecting the agricultural economy and the safety of people. To address this situation, the US government has allowed hunters to conduct controlled hunts to minimize the damage caused by wild bears.
And again. One more.
I am a professional shooter living in Louisiana, where the alligator invasion is rampant. Seeing the situation getting worse, I was determined to put an end to it. On this hunt, I used a .375 HNH Magnum rifle, designed to take down large, tough-skinned animals like alligators. With its high recoil and heavy bullets, it ensures a quick and humane kill, which is crucial when dealing with alligators. A well-placed shot to the skull can end the danger in seconds, prevent suffering, and keep local residents safe. Because bears are large and aggressive animals when they feel danger, hunters usually go in groups of 2 to 5 people that we hiked for 3 hours on the forest edge, where patches of snow clung to rocks and the air smelled of sage and cold granite. Our guide, Crade, was the first to spot the grizzly, moving like a bronze shadow on a rocky slope, looking for prairie dogs. After 2 hours of hiding behind rocks, the wind cutting into our faces, the bear...
That's when you know it's a good
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
Bear was 270 yards away. My shot rang out sharply in the thin air. The bear roared and reared. I fired a second shot, just behind the shoulder. It collapsed but writhed violently. Even dead, it looked majestic, its muscles knotted like rope, its claws like...
Good shot. This way.
Again, the federal.
These reptiles are most active at dusk and early evening, when they come out to hunt or bask near the water's edge. Knowing this, 2 friends and I returned to a pond bordering a dense forest, an area I had scouted after an alligator had once swum from there straight into my yard. To increase our chances of success, one of my friends threw a baited fishing rod into the water. The water rippled. Then the monster emerged, hooked. I quickly raised my rifle and pulled the trigger. A bullet to the head killed it instantly. This hunt took me to a remote lagoon, the perfect habitat for the giant crocodile that had caused so much fear. Hidden behind dense bushes, I used binoculars to study its every move, carefully calculating the perfect moment.
Look, that's a perfect shot, but
When its position aligned with my field of vision, I did not hesitate. A precise shot to the head ended its reign instantly. The locals were stunned, not only by the size of the beast, but also by the accuracy of my shooting ability. Using a drone, I surveyed the scene from above and discovered a shocking truth. The canal was infested with giant alligators, lurking just below the surface. One in particular caught my eye, barely visible except for its eyes protruding above the water, watching like a silent assassin.
Perfect shot.
There! Now you got her.
At exactly 200 yards, I pulled the trigger. The bullet whizzed through the air and hit the alligator square in the head. It died instantly. One shot clear, one less threat to the herd.
Pop him in the head.
Alligator hunting with a bow and arrow in the Florida swamps is a nerve-wracking experience that requires a high level of skill. That day, my friend Jackson, an experienced archer, and I quietly rode through the early morning mist, searching for the 12-foot-long swamp monster that had attacked livestock. When we spotted our target just 12 yards away, Jackson stood on the bow of the boat, pulled the bowstring taut, and shot a special arrow attached to a fishing line right into the alligator's neck. It struggled violently, creating white waves across the water, but it was held tight by the line and could not escape. After nearly 3 minutes of struggling, a second arrow finished off the giant animal. We pulled it ashore. It weighed more than 500 pounds, had razor-sharp teeth, and a terrifying bite force of up to 2,000 psi.
Got him?
Nope.
Hold on, let me get over here.
Right there. Talking about, baby. It's not a giant dude, but we freaking worked for it, man.
On this daring hunt, we ventured deep into the wetlands. The only way to reach our target was to drift silently in a small boat. Alligators, with their armored skin and keen senses, are among the most difficult animals to take down. That's why Jackson was prepared, with a compound bow that was equipped with power and precision. The arrow he used was a heavy carbon arrow with a razor-sharp tip that could penetrate 2 inches of skin. As we got closer, the huge alligator emerged from the water. With a steady hand and years of experience, Jackson pulled back the bowstring and let loose. The arrow shot like a bolt of lightning, piercing the beast's head. It thrashed violently but could not escape because we had tied a rope to the arrow. That day, we came across a huge crocodile lying silently near a narrow canal, its scaly body barely visible beneath the murky water. Without hesitation, Jackson advanced, each step calculated, until he was only 10 yards from the beast. With the steely nerves and calmness of a seasoned hunter, he drew his bow and shot a razor-sharp arrow straight into the crocodile's skull. As soon as the arrow hit, the crocodile exploded in a violent rage, thrashing wildly. He fired another arrow, and the crocodile was dead.